There's
All
old Bill
right.
Gray coming in.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. All Outdoors with Muck Simons. Today is exciting for me. It's my first video chat. I've got some good guys here to answer some questions and tell some stories. I'll introduce Darren. Darren's a good friend of mine. I met him about 8 years ago. Just a fantastic sportsman, teacher, president of or school principal, right, Darren?
Yep.
And the president of the Parkland Outdoor Show and Expo. And actually, that's why we're all here. Is we all came together for a good cause for that. So I'll turn it over to Darren to say a few words.
Hey everyone. Good evening. This is something that Muck has been talking to me about for about a year, and we thought what a awesome time to have some reach out to fellow outdoorsmen and stuff that's kind of we're just itching to get back into the outdoors. So I want to thank Muck for organizing that. He reached out to me and he said, who do you think would like to join us as some celebrity guests? And the two names that came to my mind right away were Cody and Les. So we're happy to have those guys on with us. Great sportsmen, great presenters. They've come to our show and ambassadors of the outdoors for us. So we'd like to welcome those two gentlemen, and thanks for Mux for setting this up.
So we jotted down a few things, fellas, that Darren and I that we wanted to chat about. But first and foremost, how's life going with this whole COVID, and how you guys been? Cody?
I'll go first. I guess in a way, not a lot has changed because Kelsey and I, we live our lives in the outdoors. We're self-distancing a lot, just naturally. We're calving out cows right now, but just like everyone, it's had a huge effect on us. The sponsored train is really scary right now. Just life in general is scary, as it is for everybody. But we're just staying positive, and we're excited for it to be over, and we're excited to get back out there and get hunting. And we're also excited to see everyone else that we enjoy seeing when we get to come in April each year to Yorkton. So this is a fun time for us to visit with people because we haven't had a whole bunch of time to be social lately. So this is cool stuff.
Well, that's just it. Like if you check in the stores right now, they're all sold out of webcams because it's so popular to get a hold of people via the internet. So this is a good timing. Plus, then we don't have to be in the same room. Les, how's things down there with you?
I haven't, I don't let many things get me down, and I'm a go-getter anyway, but you can start to see things changing down here. One thing, like for me and my business, my website sales have really dropped off because obviously there's so many people that are unemployed now. And so I'm not selling the products, and my distributor hasn't been ordering products. I'm a whitetail outfitter as well, so everybody knows me as a predator caller, but I'm a very fluent whitetail hunter and outfitter in both Kansas and Missouri. So I've had guys come into Kansas for several years in a row. They're from Michigan. There's a group of 4 guys. Well, I talked to them. Their whole state's locked down. So the one guy, he has 13 employees that are on unemployment right now. So he told me, he said none of them are even going to put in for a tag this year. So right there, that's $12,000-$15,000 just boom, gone. So ultimately it's going to affect me, but I guess in my opinion, I'm going to make it up somewhere else. I'm going to have to, and that's just the way I am anyway. So I'll find a way. But I think the whole farming economy, everything's going to really start showing some signs down here. I'm not hearing the greatest things going on with the farm economy. So let's just hope we get people back to work, and it's probably going to take 3-4 weeks, couple months to really start back and getting back in the gist of things.
Darren, like I said at the beginning of the program today, you're really the reason why we're all here, is because we all came together for a good cause. Right, a couple weeks ago would have been your guys' show. How's things going on that end?
Well, we were trying to hold off until the very last moment, and with people traveling and all these other things, Les is calling me and he's like, "What's happening?" And he was trying to book a flight, and I said, "Don't book anything yet, just in case." And so the government kind of told us that we had to hold off on what we were doing because of the group situation. We can't have so many people in a room, and so what we're trying to do is we're trying to stay positive too and look for an alternative. We tentatively set possibly July. We were going to try for July 18th, 19th to try to hold the show over. With that, if we happen to come out of isolation by then, I think it'll be a huge event because a lot of people want to go to it. And if we can't do it in July, then we'll just hold it off into the 2021 season. A lot of our sponsors have been really good, and a lot of our exhibitors have said, you know what, we still want to come, just depending on the date. And a lot of them say they're still working out. Majority of our speakers have said they're coming as well. So it's just kind of we're trying to stay positive. That's a huge fundraiser for the Parkland Outdoor Show. Is a huge fundraiser for schools and all sorts of different things we give money to. So it's really important that we try to run that show. And like I said, we're just trying to stay positive, and we're going to look at the next 2 weeks as you know, the make or break for the 2020 season, if we're going to be able to have a show or not. So from those people that follow us, just stay tuned. We'll have an announcement here pretty quick on what we're going to try to do. The next 2 weeks is going to be really important.
Darren, you had a good point about where the money goes, and I know all nonprofits are really struggling right now as well as everybody else, because everybody has bill, especially if you're not working. But for us, a lot of people think they look at the Parkland Outdoor Show Expo as like a hunting thing, but really the underlining is the monies that you put towards, you know, kids and the access to the outdoors and all this stuff. And I know Les and Cody, they've been right there from the start, same as I have. And when we go to the banquet, especially, we see where that money's go. Are you going to be able to come back from this if you don't have a banquet or a show, or is this something that is going to put the show in jeopardy?
Every year we try to hold over a little bit of money for operating expenses for the following year. We've got to book, you know, we got to have bookings for facilities, and we got to run advertising and stuff. So we have a little bit of an operating budget just for those things. But if we don't have a show this year, our dollars are going to obviously be limited to what we can give away. You know, this is year 9. The last 8 years, we've given over $100,000 away to programming, right? So yeah, it's just like everybody else. It's going to affect that, but I think everybody else is going to be in the same boat. If they can't get together and shoot in clubs, and teams can't play in schools, and who knows what will happen with schools, I think everybody's going to be in the same boat. So yeah, if we don't have a show this year, it'll really affect the money that we're able to give away to the organizations we give away to.
Well, I know for guys like me, we just live down the road from me like a couple hours, so you can count on me. But I'm sure these other guys. You know what? Why don't we talk about something that less stressful than COVID? Let's Cody, what have you been doing, and how are you getting ready for this year? And are you gearing up for another season with Live to Hunt?
Absolutely. But, you know, this is the time of year that we get everything solidified with outfitters, which I hate to bring COVID up again, but it's hard to do that right now. Like Les was saying, you got to wait until borders are open. You got to be sure that can be possible. But we're hoping that we can go out to British Columbia the end of May, start of June with Sean Lingle's Canadian Guide Outfitters. He has a spot and stock black bear area. And aside from being world-class hunting, he's one of our very best friends. And that's, you know, we're just thinking positive, and we're looking forward to life going somewhat back to normal, hopefully in the next 6 weeks or so. And if that happens, then we can start hunting again. And that's really exciting for us. But in regards to the fall, we have a lot of potential plans that could be really, really fun. But it's just going to depend on how this plays out. But, you know, we could be going to British Columbia for elk again, the Yukon for moose possibly. One thing that I was just thinking of myself, I've never shot a sheep before, and we get offered a lot of free hunts, you know, to promote on the show and create some buzz for the outfitter, and whether it's a young outfitter or someone that needs to book a few spots. And I know that there's a lot of sheep outfitters out there that have sheep hunts in July and August. And if this continues on much longer and the United States border and the Canadian border doesn't open to each other, then, you know, maybe there's a chance that I might get to go hunt a sheep with an outfitter. I haven't reached out to anyone yet, but I'm really excited to attempt that, or at least try that, and maybe get that conversation going. So those are a few of the positives that we're thinking about right now. And like we all are, we're always thinking about hunting and fun days getting out there. So we're looking forward to that.
And Cody, you have you probably have, you know, with the sleepy footage, you probably have a real exciting live to hunt year coming up for television coming up this fall or whenever you're launching as well, right?
We do. It's absolutely crazy. We talk about when we're in the field and we're collecting footage, we talk, cameraman Richie and Kelsey and I, it's so funny how we can go out and have the worst year possible in the field, and it might be the greatest year business-wise for sponsors and partnerships. And last year, 2019, in the field, we absolutely crushed it. We killed, I think, 7 mule deer bucks, and I think there was one that was under 200 inches. It was one of the most amazing years in Live to Hunt history. I think it always will be. And now COVID hit, so it's crazy how life can spin you for a loop. But we're gonna have some amazing episodes that hit the air this summer, starting July 1st. And the one we're most excited about is the Sleepy story. And that's a buck that we hunted for 4 years, and I actually missed that deer 3 years in a row with my bow and arrow. Every single year I missed them on camera as part of the story. And simply because I'm a horrible hunter. I don't know what it is. I can just make fun of myself now. But that buck kept getting larger and larger and larger. And I actually found his antlers every single spring as he grew and got bigger. And then in 2019, he was 8 years old. We got him on October 3rd. And the footage is out of this world. And it's something that I really look forward to sharing with the hunting world, that compilation of footage all put together. Richie's working on it right now. And, you know, he's got hundreds of hours of footage that he has to try and create a 90-minute story out of that. So there's a lot that's going to get chopped, but I think when it's all put together and looks like a finished puzzle, it's going to be a pretty amazing story that we're excited to share.
Cool. Hey, Les, I know that, you know, you're got into the whitetail situation with outfitting. How did the year go? I know you have multiple properties all over the place, but just kind of fill in some of the listeners on how the whitetail outfitting has gone for you.
Well, you know, pretty blessed to tell you the truth. We had a really, really good whitetail season in Kansas. I ran 7 bow hunters, 6 of them tagged out, and we killed probably, I'm going to say he was a world-class type whitetail, a big 5x5. I think he's going to gross in the 180s, and he's going to net right in there as well. So, and then the rifle guys did well. It's humbling, you know. I think my screen might have froze up.
You're still good on our end.
You're still good.
Okay.
Keep going.
That was excellent as far as Kansas goes. The tough part about Kansas is its draw, and right now is when they have to be putting in April 1st to April 24th. And typically on a normal season, you're going to have about an 80% success draw or 85%, right in that realm. And I had 2 guys that didn't draw. So it's tough, you know, that income, you need that income. Plus you have to put in so early just to see if you can hunt Kansas. Whereas that's why I outfit in Missouri as well, because I can buy the tags over the counter, or my hunters can. So in Missouri, it's a big buck area. I'm right around Mark Drury's property over there, and everybody knows Mark and Terry Drury. So Mark has my phone number. He's been pestering me, and you can about imagine why. I've got big deer on my place, and he's always wanting to know, you know, if they're there. And what I'm seeing and this and that. So it's a privilege to me to be around so many influential people in the whole hunting industry. Just because I'm the coyote guy, I'm around a lot of big game hunters as well, and it's a fun thing for me. So I really enjoy cutting loose with all the deer hunters and trying to put them on a deer.
Hey Les, where are you at? I was told that maybe you're back into making production again. Is that true, or where are you at with that?
Yes, I am. I'm actually going to be airing on Wild TV again starting third and fourth quarter, but they actually started airing some of my old episodes right now. So I'm going to be airing again there and Pursuit Channel in the US. I finished filming and I'm actually getting going on all the editing right now, putting those episodes together. So have some really good stuff coming up.
We're excited about that. That's pretty exciting news.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Cool. Cody, I got a question for you. I know that you added a new member to your family and also to the Live to Hunt crew. Tell us about Gracie and about the addition you got going on.
Okay, well, this winter I'm sitting on the couch and Kelsey says to me, I think I'm going to go to the SPCA and the dog rescue, and I'm going to adopt a dog. And I'm all about adopting dogs, and we've adopted a lot of animals over the years, dogs and cats. But I said, we are petted right out. We're not getting a new pet. We have no room for a pet. That's crazy. A week later, she brings it up again, and she says, I think we should get another big dog. And I said, Kelsey, we're not getting a big dog. And if we do get a big dog, it's going to be a dog that has serious purpose, like a shed dog or something. And then I kept watching TV. I didn't think anything of it. About a week later, Kelsey says, oh, look at the shed dog I found down in the southern United States, like 20 hours away. She's like, look at this shed dog. And of course, I'm very bad at falling in love with critters. And I fell in love with this little chocolate lab dog. We drove all the way down. We bought her. We brought her back up. And now she's my shed hunting partner. And I've learned so much. I remember, you think about all the people, all the grown men in their 30s, 40s that you'll see on Facebook. You'll see a guy just weeping like a baby, or he'll post a really sad post on social media saying, I lost my sidekick today. And it's always about a lab. And I've never had a lab myself. And I've always thought, wow, what's it about labs that get these guys? They'll take a big, ripped, strong grown man and just drop him to his knees. They get so attached. And I had this little chocolate lab dog for 2 days, 3 days, and I totally got every one of those posts, and I get it. They connect with you so much, and they're such a people pleaser, and they're so cuddly, and they're so kind. Their tail might be wagging, they're knocking stuff off the shelf, and they're knocking fridge magnets off the fridge and everything, but they're really sweet dogs. And when you can take your friend like that and they bring you big antlers, instead of going out hunting with your buddy, you're competing against them. And when he finds a big antler, you're jealous, right? Because he finds an 80-inch whitetail shed and he's going to take it home. Now, my furry little friend goes and finds an 80-inch shed. She comes running over the hill and she gives it to me and completely forgets about it and wants to go find another one. And I get to take it home and act like the hero. So it's something that I absolutely love now. I can't believe I haven't had a shed dog until now. And yeah, Kelsey sleeps on the couch now, and Gracie sleeps under the covers beside me, and I spoon her every night. So.
And Gracie's she's a specialized shed hunting dog, right?
She is. She's specially trained. She came from Blue Clay Kennels in Ohio, and she's 2.5 years old. They were going to keep her for themselves and breed her. And when we asked them if they had a finished dog available, they decided to offer this dog to us, and she's incredible. She'll walk right beside you with her hip right on the side of your knee, like a seeing eye dog. And you just listens to every single thing you whisper. And then when you get where you want to start looking for sheds, you say, find it. And she takes off, and she works essentially just like a bird dog. She's working back and forth. And what I didn't realize was she goes 90% on scent. When I'm out training with her or just keeping her fresh and sharp, I'll plant a fresh antler in tall grass and throw it 20 yards off somewhere where she can't see it. And you can pay attention to the wind. And if you know if the wind's coming out of the west, you watch. And when she goes downwind of that antler, she can be 20, 25 yards away from that antler on a high lope. And when that wind hits her nose, she just slams on the brakes and skids, and she'll go back and she'll look like a jackfish working the wind right up to that antler. And it's really exciting. It's fun to watch her.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, fellas, Nolan jumped in, and I know you're good friends with Nolan, you guys. I want to say hi to Nolan.
Hi, fans.
How are
Hey,
you doing,
guys.
bud?
Wow, I'm doing pretty good. I'm just feeding cows right now. So it's yeah. If you guys want to join.
I feed a lot of my own. I don't need to feed yours.
Hey, Nolan, I got a good question for you while we got you. Since knowing that you're one of Canada's sort of top 3D archers, what are you doing now that the ASA's been kind of shut down? What have you been doing?
Well, I'm feeding cows. So
Good point.
no, I'm lucky enough to have a range. I just built a new house. I'm broke as hell, and I just built a new house, and I put a range in my basement. So I built it long enough for 20 yards, and now it's starting to get nice enough. So I'm one of the fortunate ones when it comes to competition archery. But I know the majority of guys haven't touched a bow in about a month now. So unfortunately, up here, anyways, down south, Georgia, Alabama, probably where Lester is, they've been out in their shorts for the last 6 months.
So fellas, we gonna try to keep it to another half hour or so, but I want some of these guys to ask you guys some questions while we have it. But for Darren, Les, and Cody, as brief as you can, what is your most memorable hunt?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Cody.
Go ahead, Cody.
I have to say I've shared a lot of hunts. A lot of them are special to me because of the people I shared them with. There's a couple for different reasons. There's one that I shared with my grandma when I was 12. She took me hunting. She was my guardian. I didn't have a guardian at the time, and I really wanted to be a bow hunter. And she came and sat with me in a blind, 75 years old, hair in a perm, makeup on, a blouse. She wasn't a hunter herself. She didn't get hunting. Hunting wasn't her thing. You could probably say she didn't like it, but for me, she did it. So, and I got my very first whitetail with a bow sitting in a blind with her beside me. And that will always be tied with whatever other hunt I choose to be my, and the other one is Sleepy from this past fall in October. And it was a buck that I hunted for 4 years. It's not my biggest mule deer ever. I shot the 294 in 2011. This buck scored 266. Hunted him for 4 years and just spent so much time with him. And he was one of the toughest creatures I've ever had the challenge of trying to conquer. And just the way it came together, all the moments that I shared with him, all of the times I laid in bed at night thinking about him and losing sleep over him and feeling anxiety over him. And then the chance to bring him home and realizing that the best part of that journey was the anxiety, wondering where he was and how I could get him. Once it's over, you kind of wish it wasn't. But I got to enjoy that animal for 4 years, and that's one that I will never forget. And I think it's one of my favorites.
Les?
Very nice. Several hunts for me. One very memorable one, just because my brother was involved. He was the one who spotted this whitetail deer, and it was on my father's land. I ended up arrowing that buck, and he was a net booner. He's actually number 9 in the state of Nebraska all time. But from that point, and the reason I liked that hunt so much was my brother, he called me at about 10 o'clock that night. He was on his way home from harvesting, and he had already had a few Budweisers, and he was all jacked up. He's like, "You ought to seen the buck I seen right by Dad's house." And I don't know why he waited so long to tell me, because I was fast asleep. And then he got me all jacked up. But because it was a family deer on the family property, and we're in a small area, a creek that runs through our property, we're not known for big whitetails. So killing a net booner, a great big 6x6, that was special. But more importantly, because I'm the coyote guy, my favorite hunt of all times is the day I killed 16 coyotes with my brother filming me. Nothing could go wrong. I killed 3 doubles, a triple, and numerous singles. And even towards the end of the day, we're like, geez, we have time to make another stand. Let's go try to kill another one. Then we're like, screw it, we need a trophy shot. So I think I missed one coyote that day is all I missed. But I shotgunned 7, I rifled 9, and killed 16 coyotes in one day. And it was just getting them all on film. And my brother was with me. And to me, that was a pretty powerful day for me. Just the camaraderie of us being together and being a team. And that's what we've been known for, is just hunting together and him filming my hunts. And that was special for me.
Darren?
Well, just like the rest of these guys have said, there's lots of them. I haven't hunted as much as they have, but there's been a couple that have, that have stuck with me. Obviously hunting with my dad. My dad now lives in a senior housing complex and lives in Manitoba, so I don't get to hunt with him anymore. But the last moose hunt that we had gone on together would be one that really sticks with me. That's a real memorial one. The elk I shot in 2009. That was a record of elk. My first elk I'd taken. A pretty special one. A couple of years ago, I got the hunt with somebody who I admired by watching on TV, and now I consider to be one of my good friends. I was able to do a mule deer hunt with Cody, and I was lucky enough that he filmed it, and it made an episode on his show. So those are all special moments that that I had to share with people I care about or family. But right now, I would have to say is just I haven't shot a whitetail in a couple of years now, and it's not because I haven't had an opportunity, but just sitting in the blind with my kids now, that really hits home. And not even having to pull the trigger, but just being able to take in the surroundings and how that atmosphere works with deer coming in and just that anticipation of the deer coming in. So there's lots of opportunities over the years, and it's the special people that you're able to do those things with. So those are the things that come to mind. But if I had to tell a story, it'd be the elk in 09, that because it was a real cool hunt. Got a first elk tag in Saskatchewan. If you know anything about the province, Zone 37 is kind of like winning the lottery. When you get a bull tag, there's only 40 tags available. I had gone out prior to the season and did some scouting. A former student of mine in Yorkton had told me that there's a spot that I should go talk to the farmer. He's having some problems with elk on his pasture and in his canola, and I happened to go out and do some scouting and came across a real massive elk one morning in the mist. He was with about 10 or 12 cows, and I had him on film, and I had my video camera and took the film, and I got home. I was so excited to show my wife, and I said, "You're not going to believe the size of this elk I seen. He's just unbelievable." And I'm playing the film and pan over, and I got the cows, and I go to pan over to film the bull, and I can't see anything. I can hear the truck door bell blinging away, and had my finger over the camera lens. And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come on." I was like, "I'm serious. This elk is massive." A week later, that particular fall in 09, we had a really hot fall, and the mosquitoes were horrible. I had sat one evening looking for that bull, driven out after school, and sat in the canola and just wasn't getting anywhere. Had some cows calling back, but the bull wasn't coming out. It was really warm, and one day I had checked the forecast, and it was supposed to be overcast. So I packed my hunting rifle with me, and after school I headed out and was able to sit kind of looking over a bit of a ravine, and I'd learned a couple techniques from a couple guys about calling, and I tried it and let a bugle out, and it kind of sat, and there was a pop across the ravine from where I was at, and all of a sudden I'm looking, and the sun was setting in the west, and the way that I was on the north side of that canola in the ravine, and I could see branches flying up in the air, and I'm like, what the heck? And it just making noise, and here I started to get on the hoochie mama, and it's him, and he's digging away in the trees, and he's just throwing stuff up in the trees, and all of a sudden he starts coming towards me. He's bugling, and he's just screaming at me, and there's I found out after that there's an old abandoned road from that side that led down where the guy used to water his cattle. He's coming down that pathway, but the hazel bushes have grown up. So as he's coming down, I can start seeing the whale tails, the fish tails coming from his antlers. And as he's coming, the antlers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and he is screaming. So I gave out one more bull bugle, and then I kind of let off. And he walked out, and he turned broadside about 175 yards, 200 yards. And I was using a rifle that was gifted to me in a will from my uncle. It was a 270 Browning, and this bull turned sideways, and he was massive. He's the biggest elk I've ever seen in my life. And I listened to a word of advice my dad had given me one time. He's like, if you shoot it high up on top of the top of the shoulder, he goes, that elk won't go anywhere. You'll paralyze it. It'll go straight down. So I squeezed off the trigger and shot, and all of a sudden through the optics, all I could see was just branches moving. And I'm like, oh my God, if I miss that elk, I'm gonna freaking go crazy. So put another one in the chamber, and I start walking down, and it's through this ravine, got to the water, and there's a pretty good creek running there. So I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to cross this creek. So I get into the water, and up to my chest, I cross this creek, get on the other side, and I can hear. I look over, get on top, and here he's trying to get up. I paralyzed him, and he wasn't moving. He was in this hollow, and his antler was stuck into the mud. And here's this massive elk, and so I ended up getting him, and I'm like, well, now I have to try to get him out of this ravine. I don't own a quad. Can't get down with their half ton. So I ran through the creek again, up to my chest, up to the farmer's yard. And this is prior to me having a cell phone. Go to this guy's yard, and I'm all full of water, and I'm standing on his front steps full of mud. And I was able to call for some help. But he was on the football field with his quad. He was bringing his quad out. He comes back out, and so I had to cross the water again one more time up to my chest. And it's hot. Like, I didn't want him to spoil, so I started opening up, and I've never caped anything in my entire life before. Just total greenhorn, never shot anything big enough to ever get mounted or caped, and ended up getting them all caped out. And here this farmer starts coming, older guy, he had just recently lost his wife, and he asked if I needed a hand, and I said, you know what? I kind of knew the background story that he had gone through some tough times. And I said, no, don't worry about it. And all of a sudden I can hear he fired up his 2-wheel drive cockshot tractor, and he's bringing this tractor down this hill. He puts the blade down, and he kind of comes down this ravine. I'm like, well, how is he going to get across this water? Like, it's up to my chest. He drives about 100 yards down the creek, and here the water is just to a trickle. And he goes right across it. I'm like, ah. I'm soaking wet. So he comes over, and he's like, oh my God. He goes, he goes, you shot a dinosaur. He goes, so he ended up pulling this elk out, but he had an old plow on it. He didn't actually have a bucket tractor on it. It was a plow. So we just tied it to the back of the tractor, and I kind of rode the elk. I had his head up so his horns didn't catch into the dirt and break off any of his tips. So we got him up, got him loaded onto the truck. And it was exciting because it was the biggest elk I had ever shot and hunted for. And the old guy, he ended up passing away a year later, and I named him Tony, and that's the elk's name in honor of that hunter. But that was a pretty memorial hunt. I'll tell you what, I'm not a professional hunter, and I don't have a TV program, but you didn't even have to edit that hunt the way it all unfolded. It was amazing. And I was by myself. I was by myself, and there's nobody who would ever believe that story, but that's exactly how it ended up. So that's my all-time story when it comes to stories about, having shot a prize animal. But it's like the other guy said, it's all about just enjoying people and people you're with. So now I know we've answered the question, Muck, but you got to give us one of your stories. I know you have lots of guide stories. What's a good one from you?
Well, I do have a most favorite hunting story, but I'll tell you, you guys, if you have kids, you'll know what it's like when you take your kids out there with hunting with you. It's hard to compare the feeling you'll get. Like, I've been taking Ryan since he was 2 years old. I've got pictures of a cow moose where I shot a cow moose with just me and Ryan. And he was 2, and I remember when I spotted that cow moose from the truck, he was watching Barney on a DVD, and not kidding. And I parked the truck and I went down into the field and I shot the moose and I came back, and at 2 years old that kid tried to help, but that's not my favorite. But watching him grow, and maybe sometimes he didn't want to come with me or not, but I literally was dragging him with me on every hunt I have. And the year that he was 11, in particular, I got a really big mule deer and a really big whitetail back to back. Something a lot of people don't get, but Ryan was there with me to video it on the GoPro, so I was super pumped. But I'll tell you, fellas, there's the feeling when Ryan turned 12. See, I kind of took a step back from hunting a couple of years ago when Ryan turned 12. I had told my wife that when Ryan turned 12, I was going to dedicate that year to him. And because here in Saskatchewan, we have so much that we can hunt with, especially in southern Saskatchewan, from whitetail to birds to pretty much anything you can imagine. So I had said, if Ryan grows up and when I'm long gone, I want him to remember his first year. Because just like you guys, I'm sure you guys all remember your very first year hunting with your family. I mean, I know I do. So I dedicated that year. I pretty much, all other than shooting a few geese and stuff, I didn't shoot a deer or anything like that. I spent all my time trying to get Ryan animals. And Ryan, I mean, he did have an epic year. It started with a really nice big black bear in northern Saskatchewan with his bow, and then we went and he got pheasant, goose. He got his first goose. He got his first mule deer. And I'm going to tell the story real quick about my favorite hunt, but I'll have to say probably what rivals that, it was when Ryan actually shot a mule deer doe he got drawn for mule deer doe with a muzzle loader at 120 yards. It was cold that day, and the embrace that he gave me after he shot it, you guys, I'm getting shivers just thinking about it right now. That the bond or the moment that we shared at that particular time, I don't think there's nothing can compare to that, because I was so proud of him, and it was cold and he really didn't want to be there, but he stayed in it. So if you've ever had a child on that first animal that they got, is something special that I know I'll always remember. But the best hunt I ever had was when I was guiding in BC. It was, so when you're guiding, it's particular at this camp, part of their job when you're not guiding people is to look after the meat that come into camp, because we're in a fly-in camp, so everything has to be prepared before it leaves. So I was cutting up some meat and stuff, and a couple of sheep hunters came back, like a sheep guide and a sheep hunter, and they had said that they'd saw a 400 class bull elk above the timber, and they saw it for 5 days when they were sheep hunting. And of course, when I first started as a guide, for about the first 5 years, I guided for everything, mountain goats, everything like that. But then my last, say, 10 years of guiding was all elk. I just did elk and maybe the occasional moose. So for me, when I heard of a 400 class bull elk in northern British Columbia, I couldn't believe it. So I went to my outfitter knowing that he was thinking of selling his camp, and I might not be working there again next year. I went to him, I said, hey, can I go after that bull elk? And he says, well, sure, but you can't get horses in there. It's above the timber. The only way that you can go in there is if you backpack. And I said, I'm game for that. If you have a hunter coming in that can handle that, I definitely would do that. So he selected one of the hunters off the plane that was in the best physical shape. And I asked if I could have a wrangler with me only to help pack the meat out when we got the animal. And he said, sure. So he sent me his grandson. So we flew to the camp that we were going to load up our horses in. And the wrangler from that camp, we all went in a horse train, and it took 9 hours just as a horseback trip to get to the area where we were going to do our spike camp. And then we had to hike in the mountains from there. So, but on the way in, we saw this big black bear on the side of the mountain. So we decided we'd go after it, and we got it. So that put us back about a half a day, because we had to skin it out and bring it back. And thank goodness the wrangler was good enough to take the hide and the meat back to camp with him. But the wrangler drops us off, and I've never been there. So here's another thing. It's pretty stressful, because we're hunting without horses and in an area I've never been. So we packed up. It was really foggy the very first day, really foggy. And all I knew is that there was a saddle that I had to go up the side of the mountain. So we go up there, and when we get up there, it was just like my outfitter said. There was not a tree to be found. It was literally a barren country I've never been in. It was above the timber. It was so high up, but it was a series of valleys and with a big, like a glacier cap at the end. And that's where they said the elk were hanging out. So we climbed up there. It took us about 5-6 hours of continuous hiking up in there. And we get to the top, and we're going to have lunch. And the hunter is getting out his sandwich and apples and stuff. And I got out the spotting scope because I could see about 4 miles away. I could see the bowl there with the snow and the glacier. So I set the spotting scope up, and guys, I'm not even kidding when I tell you, the very first thing I saw was that herd of elk sunning themselves in the glacier. And because they stuck out like sore thumbs, I was like, holy cow, there's that big elk right there. But the thing is it took us so long to get up there, we didn't think that there was any chance that we could hunt them. But the hunter was like, as soon as we saw him, it revitalized us. So we're like, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll try to get as close as we can, and then we'll sleep on the mountain, and then hopefully they'll be there in the morning. So we went down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up, and we got to that bowl just before dark. And because there was no trees, there was no cover for us. We're basically just walking out in the open. So I think those elk saw us, and they slowly moved up. It's called ridge called 44 Ridge. They moved up this ridge, and I'll tell you, if I had a camera, I would have been a millionaire with the picture, because that big 6x6 stood right on the top of the skyline and looked at us about 300-400 yards too far to shoot. And he just was so majestic. So he dropped over the top, and there was a 5x5, and there was about 6 cows with him. And so I said, by this time we're exhausted. We've been hiking all day. I said to the hunter and the wrangler, I said, I'm going to climb up there, and I'm going to look over the edge to see what we're dealing with for tomorrow. And of course the hunter says, well, if you're going, I'm going. And I said to the wrangler, you stay here, make camp, because he didn't really want to come. So we go up the hill, and it only took us 30 minutes. It was a ridge. And of course, I was in the best shape of my life back then. I get up to the top first, and I look over the edge, and they're literally right there, right across on the other side of this ridge. So I walk back, I look down, and like most guides and their hunters, the hunter's quite a ways down there. So I run all the way down the hill, grab his gear, and so that he could get up there. We get to the top, and when we looked over the edge, by this time he was probably 200 yards or so down the hill. And it was steep. When I say steep, almost hands and feet steep. And so we dropped down on our ass, and we slid on our butts as quickly as we could, sliding until we got to a point where we couldn't go any further. And the hunter, he come in behind me, and he's a big guy. I remember, and he's like, I go, do you have a shot? And I ranged him with the rangefinder, and I said, it's 233 yards. And he goes, I can't hold still. So I said, use my shoulder. So I go like this with my things, because he's shooting a .338 Winchester mag. So I plug my ears, and he shoots, and then the elk just disappears into the abyss. And we couldn't really see it because it was so steep. And we just it was just silent. And by that time, it was just like there was maybe 5 minutes of legal shooting or 10 minutes of legal shooting left. So we couldn't tell if he hit him or not. We never heard any sound. So we start looking for him, and we can't find him. And it's completely demoralizing, because by now it doesn't take very long in the mountains to gobble up 10 minutes. And we're looking with our flashlights, and we can't find him. So we're like, did we blow this hunt or whatever? And luckily back then, this has got to be 1999 or so, I was carrying a 4-cell mag light, because you remember big mag lights back then, and I was shining it all the way down the side of this mountain, and I caught what I thought was some brown. So I ran down there, and guys, it was the biggest elk I've ever laid my hands on, other than when I was in Arizona with a friend of mine. It was incredible. So I called over the hunter, and he come down there. We take some pictures, and it truly was the biggest elk. And it was so amazing to get that elk. So we just field dressed it right then, took a bunch of pictures, and then we hiked back over, and we went to the camp. And by that time, the wrangler had he had a fire going and all that stuff. here's the thing. We didn't have any sleeping stuff because we didn't take anything in there except for our hunting stuff because we knew we had to pack an elk out. So that night we laid down on this dry gravel creek bed, the three of us, and I brought a blue tarp, a small blue tarp. We hunkered under that. And I remember we almost froze to death that night because it dropped down so low. Like that's one thing that I didn't estimate, that the temperature would drop so low that even though we had the fire going, we almost froze to death. So soon as I said to those guys, like, we're shivering so bad, I go, soon as I can see, I'm going to pack that elk out. So we all went over there. And this is the reason why it's the more memorable hunt for me, guys. So we went there, and from the time we field dressed it, I was carrying the antlers, a hind quarter, the cape. The hunter was carrying a back strap, some hunting gear, and a front shoulder. And then the wrangler was carrying a hind quarter and some other stuff. And it took us 15 hours one way to hike that, to backpack that out. And I remember that hunter saying to me, and then because I kept saying, we got to go, because they wanted to give up, and I kept saying, no, just over this ridge and we'll make it and we'll stop. It took 15 hours to do it. When we got back, and there's one particular picture that I always post. It's me holding this rack of antlers, and it literally was, because I'm not the tallest, you guys know that, it was dragging on the ground when I was hiking with it out. I was kind of bear hugging it like this as I was hiking it, but it was so heavy that when I used the slope of the mountain to stand up, and then once I stood up, I would never sit down again. But that's why it's the most memorable, because we went after that elk. We saw it the very first day. We got it the first day, and then it took 15 hours to backpack it. I know it's a long story, but, and you know, Darren, you're talking about your elk, and I think you guys know this. I've been doing seminars and stuff for almost 20 years now, trying to teach people to call. I've never shot an elk ever, not one, and Darren and I are in the draw together. So when I do get my first elk, it's going to be my most memorable hunt, and you're going to be with me.
That's a good story, man. That's awesome.
So I'm going to.
What was the name of that ridge again? What,
44
I want to write
Ridge.
Yeah, me too.
and just for the and for the
Northern BC.
For the record, that bull only went 357. It wasn't a 400-point bull, but who cares? It was it's big. So I'm gonna let the rest of the crew in here ask you guys a question. What I'm gonna do is, so we don't have everybody talking, I'm gonna start with the way it is on my screen here, and I'm gonna ask you if you have a question for either one of these guys, and then we'll just move on. Okay? So I'm gonna start with William Gray. I'm gonna unmute you, William, and if you got a question, feel free to ask away.
Hey, Les. What are you hearing about the Escanaba show? Any idea if that's going to happen?
Well, they don't want me back up there. At least that's what they're saying. But as far as I know right now, Bill, the whole state of Michigan is in lockdown. So I bet the plans for everything are changing day by day.
No kidding. They don't want you back. Son of a gun.
No.
We got to talk.
I'm not a big enough pull.
Oh, no. All right. Yeah, I'll give you a call sometime, buddy.
Okay. Good seeing you.
Okay, so next up I got Blake. Blake, go ahead if you got a question. I don't know if Blake's even there, so we'll move on. Bobby, what do you got?
Oh, I don't think I've got anything right now, but if something comes to mind, I'll let you know.
All right. Colin, you're up next.
Yeah, so I grew up about 20 miles south of Les, and met him back in the early 90s. Whether he remembers it or not,
Oh, yeah.
him and his brother Jeff, and I can't remember, there were some other boys that went along, but we went on a coon calling expedition one night, and I will never forget that till the day I die. I don't remember. I think we killed 15 or 16 coon that night, and of course I was I'd never done it. I was a houndsman. I chased them with dogs, and you get 3 or 4 a night. You thought you were doing pretty good, and Les spoiled me there. So I blame him for getting me hooked on that. So other than that, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Cody. You don't remember it probably, but my son and I ran into you down at the ATA show this year and got to introduce ourselves to you, and that was a pretty big thrill for my boys. So that's all I got.
Before we move on there, Les, I've told you this before, and I wholeheartedly mean this. When Ryan, my son, met you for the very first time, you really set him in a good direction when it came to hunting and stuff like that. Like, he literally, you're the only poster he has on in his room right now, and he's 14. And like, I just like you were getting ready for supper there. So was I. And when I was sitting down to wolf down my burger, my son said, "Well, who's all going to be on the call tonight?" And I said, "Cody and Darren and Les." He says, "Oh, Les." I said, "So he's still loving you."
Oh, tell him I said hi.
There. No, you're not there. Sorry, dude. Nolan, you got anything for these gentlemen?
Well, I not overly, but I just want to know, Cody, if I get drawn, because I've been waiting for 7 years in Super A, do I have to hunt with Mikey Longman again, or can I come with you?
Well, can you shoot better than Darren Wandy?
I was using faulty gear.
I just love the part when Cody was yelling at Darren about it.
I hit that muley on the run.
No, that was merely a joke, Wandy. You're a good shot, buddy. And Nolan, you just get drawn, and then we'll sort that out. Yeah, it would be fun.
Because last time I hunted with Mikey Longman, we had both slept in because we had too many rums, and then I ended up shooting that thing behind me. So it kind of worked out, but
you know what? Sleeping in because you had too many rums. I'm not surprised. Mikey likes rum. Yeah.
Well, like Ryan, I know that my 2 boys, and I know my brother Darcy's boy, they really follow Les and Cody on TV, and they're stuck to the Wild TV and the Sportsman's Channel, and those programs come up. And we were shed hunting today, and as soon as they got their sheds, they're like, "Hey, did you send that to Cody and Les?" So it's pretty funny.
Awesome.
It's pretty funny the connections people make in the outdoor world. But I can honestly say that those 2 gentlemen, what you see on TV is what they are in real life. So, to both you guys, thank you for producing the things that you guys produce and being avid outdoorsmen. We really appreciate that. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I definitely couldn't agree more with I met Les. Well, I guess I met both you guys right from the start of the outdoor show. And Les, you and I did a couple of seminars together, and it was amazing. And Cody, that's one guy I haven't got a chance to hook up with too often, yet we live in the same province. But
yeah, we need to, for sure.
You know what, though? I do have a Cody story, though. And
okay.
So I can't remember what year it was at the outdoor show that I did elk presentation. And Cody, you just nicely had gotten your show off the ground, and you're kind of one of the big names in the shows world at that time, as you still are. But I remember I was doing my presentation, and Cody Robbins came and sat down right in the front row of my presentation. And I looked down, I'm like, okay, so if a guy like Cody Robbins wants to hear about elk, I must be doing something right. So
that's awesome, bud.
But you know what, you guys, and I really do mean this, like, from talking with you guys at the shows, one thing that we all have in common is getting youth involved in the outdoors. But more importantly is educating people out there on whatever discipline we're at. If it's coyotes, or in my case it's elk, or Cody's case it's big deer. We're always giving back, and I think that's the key to enjoying this career or this life, is always giving back. Like, I know I do all those little videos all the time because it was at the outdoor show banquet. A guy tapped me on the shoulder and he says, "You won't remember me, but I took one of your seminars in about 10 years ago." And he goes, "I killed a 5x5 elk." That's what it's all about. And it's all about getting a new hunters or kids in. And I know you guys are big on that as well.
I've learned, you know, you can go out and hunt a great big giant buck or go kill 5 or 6 coyotes in a day, get a double, get a triple. And those are, you know, those are full of adrenaline. You feel proud, but none of that stuff compares to when you take a kid, or not even a kid. It can be a newcomer. It can be a gentleman or a lady that's 70 years old that's never done that themselves. And you take them out there and you give them that chance. And it's a whole new level of joy that you feel, or at least it is for me. I love it when you take someone new and you just see that adrenaline, that excitement, and that all of that raw emotion that they've never felt before, and they realize how much fun we really do have out there, and how great the sport really is.
I think lots of times people get clouded by, they see your guys' face or my face on video or whoever's, and they think it's about us. It's not. It's almost never about us, is it, guys?
Not very often, no.
No. I mean, sometimes we get the enjoyment of it, but I always said one of the best things I ever did was be a guide, because it gave me patience. It let me deal with people. And at the end of the day, people always say, "Oh, how could you be a guide and not shoot those animals?" I was part of that animals hunt. So I'm with you, Cody. I'd rather take somebody and watch them shoot it than shoot it myself.
Yeah. I love shooting animals myself, but it's a whole different feeling when you take someone with you. I'm kind of hoping that maybe Les Johnson gets like compelled to take me coyote hunting sometime.
Absolutely.
Hey, Les,
I believe, weren't you trying to get David to ask a question?
Yeah. Is he back?
Well, I think he wrote me a message on Facebook, and one of his question was, how do you keep the youth interested? And what I want to say, if this is the same David, I'm assuming it is, because he was asking how to get on the Zoom. What I would say, when you're taking a kid, it's about the kid. No matter what, you can't push a kid as hard as you want to go. So you've got to make it about the kid. If they don't want to hunt, you don't hunt. Because if they lose interest in it, the whole deal's done. But what I like to do is, if I'm going to take a kid hunting, I want to take them on a hunt where I know they're going to have some luck, or they're going to see an animal. So it's going to either be a whitetail hunt where I know I can take them and they can see deer, or it's going to be a spring turkey hunt where I know I can put them on a turkey where they'll at least have an opportunity. So I try to make it the way where I know they're going to have good luck. So that's what I do when I'm taking a kid. I want it to be a hands down a good hunt.
I would echo that as well. Like, you know, my boys are. My boys are still too young to hunt. My oldest will be able to take his hunter safety this year, but they've been on plenty of hunts. But it's the same thing. Like, just getting them out there interested. Right now, you know, we've been shed hunting. I don't know, we put on about 20 miles or 25 miles already, and the boys are asking to go. And, you know, it's more of them just exploring, and we found some really interesting things, and they've asked lots of questions, and now it's them that are saying, "Hey, can we go out today, or can we do this today, or, you know, can we go shoot some gophers or whatever?" So it's like Les said, it's their agenda, and getting them to go out and then follow their agenda, and then plugging a few things in on the way. So.
For sure.
Okay, guys, I noticed Brooke joined in just at the last second. Brooke, did you want to ask these guys a question or anything?
No questions. Just wanted to say hello. That's about it.
Right on.
Heck,
I have a question.
Ask me any questions, go ahead. I'm a wealth of knowledge. I taught everything.
I have a question for Darren.
Yes, sir.
Darren,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Darren, is something you want to tell us? Do you have a new sponsor?
Do I have a new sponsor?
Yeah, you're sure showing off that treadmill in the background. Did you hang up or what happened?
No, I'm showing you the treadmill. That was my wife's Christmas gift a couple years ago.
Nice.
And you're still alive.
Oh yeah, she wanted it.
Well, boys, I think it's time we wrap it up. I guess if anybody has anything you want to say before we go, but thanks for this. I think for the foreseeable future, this is the kind of the way things have got to go. It's sad to say, but
No, I just like to carve out a thank you to Les and Cody for spending some time with us, and those that joined us tonight. I know Muck was thinking about maybe we could do this again with some other guests, but would like to thank those two guys for carving some time out and continue to do what you do, and we really appreciate those guys coming to the show, and also for the production they make for us through TV and their Facebook posts and stuff like that. So thanks a lot, guys, and we really enjoy what you do, and I really enjoy the friendship that we have, minus Cody's friendship now. After but thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having us. And for thinking of us. I think of you guys as good friends, really good friends, and we're missing the show just as much this year as I'm sure you guys are. It's a great experience every single year, and I can't wait till it's scheduled again and the chance to hang out with you fellas and have a drink and have a good visit. It'd be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Cody, your old boss, Jim Shockey, just posted something on Facebook I saw yesterday that really was well said about what's going on in the industry at this time with outfitters and with hunters. So, I mean, if anybody has a minute to listen to that, I thought it was very well said. It represented both the outfitters and the hunters and the patience that we're going to have as hunters and as outfitters, because right now those guys are going to be hurting. I mean, most of those outfitters that have the wheels in the motion for those hunters to show up long before they ever get there. So without those hunters and all that stuff, they're going to be hurting. And just like you, Darren, and your show, we're all going to have some patience here and help each other out. But yeah, if you guys get a minute, listen to that. I thought he said it very well. And thanks for coming, fellas. And I look forward to next year at the show with you guys.
Thank you, Muck.
Thanks, Muck.
Thanks, Muck.
Yep.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna shut her down. I'm going to stop the recording here. Thanks everybody for attending, and I'm going to try to do this from time to time. I'm going to hopefully I'm going to drag Darren along with me. I kind of told him told him to do this with me. So you're going to see more of these, and yeah, by all means jump in. So
one last thing there, Muck. I'm not sure if many of the guys that are on here realize that you are a city police officer in Regina. I would like to, with everything that's going on, you're in the front line. You're on one of the essential services. So I want, on behalf of my family, I want to say, stay safe in your job, and thanks for what you do on the front line for the citizens of Regina. So stay safe, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Darren, for thinking of me. And yeah, let's all get through this together. And good luck in 2020 after this mess is done, guys. All
Absolutely.
the best.
Yep.
Thanks, bud.
Take care.
Right on. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.